underground, boxed and glum, left you there for all my fears are overgrown. Will someone burn this grove? Those August nights, they burn hot. Wake from a dream where I was stuck, losing my teeth. Lucky for me, it was all fake, or not what it seemed. Where, oh, where do we go next? Haunted pillow beneath my head. Where does it go? Where does it go? Where does it go? Pick out her heart with a kitchen fork, pin down her arms, and wake from the scar, still feeling sick. Where did it get started? Where, oh, where did this come from? Oh my God, my head's a gun. I let myself go. I let myself go. I let myself go. I let myself go. Wait! Don't go anywhere. I have two really quick things to say. First, I'm coming on tour. Wahoo! In less than 2 weeks. Starting in Canada, we're going all the way to Las Vegas. The second thing is, I need help in each city. Somebody to
That song was Kitchen Fork by Jack Conta. Old song. back in the old YouTube vlog stuff. Anyways, next song.
Tongue at the top of your lungs. Are you drunk? Have you been drinking? Do you below the overpass go? With the fifth in your fist, reminiscing the kiss of a love that just didn't love as much as you did. But please don't give up, dear walls. Don't let the ceiling fall when you belong to a song. Salty eyes, you belong. Shrill notes begin the grim violin. Then from the silence of violence of sirens orchestrate the score, to which one more corpses left quiet. How we've become the hollows of drums, the rests between notes and the hollows that never reach the roads. Friends in quotes, they're not calling, but please don't give up, dear you. Amid the sliver moon sliding through, when you belong to a song. Salty eyes, you belong.
Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I got distracted by the song. 1 second. I gotta listen to this.
Do please believe, however naive, let me drag you along by the tongue at the top of your lungs and belong. Salty eyes, when you belong to a song. Salty eyes, you belong.
Good song. Anyways, hello, 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 lovely people. How are you all doing? You doing all amazing? I said already, it's Salty Eyes. Salty Eyes by The Matches. The band no longer exists, unfortunately. They did one album and now they don't exist. So many good bands that I love just don't exist anymore. So sad. But anyways, hello, hello, hello. Thank you for the follow. Greatly appreciated. Welcome to the menagerie. I'm LuckyJene, gambler, writer, and soon to be villain. Oh yeah, no, The Matches is so good. The song that a lot of people know by them is the Wake Up the Sun. Actually, we'll play it real quick. Wake Up the Sun. Here it is. You ready? Here it comes. Ready? Here you go.
Every dawn gets its daylight, every frown gets her way like, every step to the daylight keeps you stumbling on.
It's a cute song. Anyways, so hello, 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 hello. Hi, Bricken Enjoyer. I don't know. Yeah, no, actually, I actually really do enjoy Bricken. It's all indie music. I mean, it's technically like that weird emo indie genre between like emo and just standard indie music. Has those folky vibes, just, you know, the weird 2000 music. It was great. It's great. It's great. But hello, 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 hello. You were playing a really good song before this one. I can't remember. Lovelies. Okay, we have The Bidding. So okay, we're gonna write on all the songs. I'm gonna pin them up. Are you ready? You ready? Okay. So first we have Kitchen Fork by Jack Conta, because everybody keeps asking me all the song names. So we have Kitchen Fork, Jack Conta. Then we have which was The Matches, Salty Eyes, Matches, and then we have The Bidding, Tally Hall. And then we have Wake the Sun by the matches. Bam. If anybody asks me a single song title, I'm going to scream. Anyways, lovelies. So, hello. Tally Hall is fantastic. Are you my lucky or unlucky? I'm lucky, obviously. It's in the name. But how are you all doing? How's your day been? Has it been fantastic? It looks like we have a new top clipper. Mizaki Everhart has 12 views on their new clip. I don't know what clip it is, but I believe it's amazing. And yes, you have homework. We're going to check on the forums right now. See if anybody has finished their homework. Let's see. Did you finish? What do you mean there's 72 responses? All right. I'll do the Southern for you. Here we go. Bam. Y'all have 7 stickers now. 7 stickers. That's right. We got a whole bunch of people who've done their homework so far. Remember, at 10, we're going to do something special. I don't know what it's going to be. If you haven't done your homework yet, here it is. Well, that's a YouTube link. Here's the homework. We're going to be doing a little event next week where I'm going to go through everybody's. There's 72 people. I don't need no people. Yeah, there it is. Same form from last stream. I am proud of you. I don't need 72 people. There's so many people. How am I going to go through one stream reading every single person's thing? I mean, like, let me see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Read over 50 smutty romance books. Damn. 50 smutty romance books. Yes. They are for a stream. Over 200. So, yeah, 72. It's gonna be great. Redo my homework. It's too late. Homework is all for the streams. That's what the homework category is for. Anyways, and remember, keep sexual stuff out of it. Keep actual crimes out of it. I appreciate y'all so much, but I don't want to get kicked off of Twitch just because of y'all, you know? Anyways, oh, did we get a sub? Hey, Kira! Thank you for the resub. Really appreciate it. All right, let me take a look. We're going to go through all of our check-ins. I think it's funny that y'all did it so badly once again. You're fine. You're totally fine, Ariana. No worries. And me watching Gene streams while Christmas shopping because very little can keep. Enjoy your Christmas shopping. All right. We're going to go through all of the people. Say hello as we do. First off, we got Star Noxtus. Thank you for getting second, except first. All right. Then who do we got next? We got the lovely. Let me turn that down a little bit. We got the lovely Necro Ninja who checked in. Thank you. We got Neffy in third. And then we got Carmia in first, except third. Y'all understand how counting works, right? We go 1, 2, and then 3, right? Right? Y'all know the way counting works? No? What do you mean no? 1. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 7, 1, 7. No. Y'all, they're in order. You have to go out of your way to get them wrong. Why is it so hard? It's okay. All right. Well, Star Noxus, congratulations on second, except first. Neffy, congratulations on third, except second. And Karamia, congratulations on first, except third. Also, hello, Necro. Hello, Admily. Hello, Lucky Cataclysm. Hello, Poisonous. Hello, Star Noxus. Hello, Jam. Hello, Eli. Hello, Uppinly. Hello, Huminia. Hello, Kitty and Xenix and Gangster Neeks and Red Faye. And hello, Amana and Galactic Girl and Unstable Raccoon and Asher. Hello, Kate and Pixie and Silverfang. Hello, Bella Beauty. Hello, Unicorn Tamer. Hello, Pinky Cafe. Hello, Random Opossum. Eli. We have 2 Eli's? That's kind of cool. Hello, Marixel. Hello, Pebbles. Hello, Talissima. Hello, Toga and Lachlan. Hello, the real femboy watcher. Are you a watcher who's a femboy, or do you watch the femboys? Just Poison? Got you, Poison. Hello, Sakuna. Hello, Sakuna. Hello, Bellatrix and Akemia and Akiyama. Wow, that was awful. Hello, Discorded Fox, Ember, and Full Metal Brook. Oh, Full Metal Brook. Are you yeah, you are. You're mod. Nice. Hello, Zomba Biscuit. Hello, Roxanne, Little Red Funks. Hello, Karamia. Hello, Lucifer, King of Hell. Hello, Kira. Hello, Little Mouse and Nimbus and Goblin King. And hello, Virus. Hello, Neffy. Hello, Red Moon. Hello, Sleepy Son of Puppy. Hello, Tasha. Hello, Welshie. Hello, Oliver the Twisted. Hello, Aria. Hello, Control Pink. How Pink. Hello, Catbox. Hello, Echo Inferno. Hello, Son of the Sunshine. Hello, Vanya. Hello, Vanya. Hello, Luno Rain. Hello, Meow Kitty Cat. Hello, Kira. Hello, Tora Craft. Hello, Sinful Microwave. Microwave, are you? Yes, perfect. All right. Where were we? I got lost. Oh, no. Hello, Mr. Harvest. Hello, Dark Leopard. Hello, Melp. Hello, Ocean. Hello, Bristia. Hello, Julia. Hello, Elliptic Panda. Hello, Blitzo and Spooky Cast and 7K. Hello, Caitlin. Hello, Hellrise, Lucy. Hello, Rafia. Hello, Stella. Jazza. Hello, Gibbets. Hello, Mika. Hello, Mika. Thank you for the hydrate. Hello, Glitch of the Ditch. Hello, Teddy Bear. Hello, Shank. Hello, Amelia. Hello, Momomia. Hello, Kizu. Hello, Call Me Ma. Hello, Red Faye. Hello, Stream Check-In, Lisa. Hello, Vega. Hello, Ariana. Hello, Star Blossom. Hello, how many more do we? Hello, SKZ Fan. Hello, Annabelle. Hello, Halo Bear. Hello, Girder. Hello, cats, and hello, Alien. We've done it. All of you. Amazing. Yuma, you sneaky little sneak. Hello. Thank you for the check-in. Also, we're going to go over all of these, not all of them, but we're going to do another like little check-in once we go into like halftime. So, at halftime, we're going to do more check-ins in case you come in late, which is totally fine. I don't judge you. I judge you aggressively. Actually, I write down every single person who's late, especially people who come in and apologize for being late. I write that down extra, and I hope you know. Yeah. You're going to get it. We made it to 11. Proud of you. Vanya, you're like almost always on time. What are you my batting about? So, today we're going to be playing a small little indie game. Not a lot of people have heard of. It's really big for some reason. I don't know. It's like 90 gigabytes or something. It's called like Madelgar or something like that. Apparently it's the third one of these games. So I don't know how it's done so like long for being such a tiny little game. But it was gifted to me by a lovely viewer, a friend, Keeper of Fate. They gifted it to me. So yeah, Metalgar, we'll be having a lot of fun with. I hope you're doing okay. I'm sick. I'm still sick, lovelies, unfortunately. Hopefully I will soon not be sick, but I keep getting sick, so. Father, guess what? What is it? Kind of new. Yeah, fine. Yeah, you're legally allowed to be late. I will only come for you while you're sleeping. I will try. I did. I finished my first exam. Proud of you. Good job. Good luck. I believe in you. Stream check-in. Hello. Leica. Hello, Leica. Ha. Okay, so what time is it? 18 minutes. We still have... Wow, did we... No, we've only been here for 17 minutes, and that is 7 minutes in title screen, and that is 10 minutes spending doing check-ins and saying hi to everybody. We're nailing it today. We have so much time before stream. So, do you know what that means? Because I honestly don't. Normally, by this point, we've run out of time, and it's already the next part of the stream. But we have so much time. I went too quick, and now I'm scared. Maybe we got you sick. Yeah, did you get me sick? Were you all licking me? Tell you a story? Okay. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a small rabbit. The rabbit had dark desires. You see, this rabbit had been pushed around by all of the townsfolk and told awful, awful things its entire life, and so it decided one day it was going to get even. And so in the middle of the night, it snuck in, found the water supply, and poisoned it. That night all the villagers fell sick, they felt ill, and they came to the rabbit and they said, "Rabbit, why do you seem fine?" And the rabbit said, "Well, I've decided to make you all feel in one night what you've made me feel my entire life." The end. And the moral of the story is do not bully rabbits. So what are we talking about? Here's a poem? Fine, I have a poetry book here somewhere. Where is it? Which one of you? Aha! Favorite poems of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow with introduction of blah 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 blah. Page 12. The Lover's Errand. So the strong won't prevail. And Alden went on his errand out of the street of the village and into the paths of the forest, and to the tranquil woods where blueberries and robins were building towns in the populous trees. Thank you for the biddies. Thank you, Doc. This isn't a poetry book. This is just a normal book. I don't know where this is. Let's read a poem from Poe. Poe poems. Let's go. It came at a weird time. Honestly, every time in this stream is it. Are you really asking for more stickers? Fine. Let me look at the list. No, you have 2 more until you get another sticker. Here we go. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in his sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long and singing a song in search of El Dorado. But he grew old, the knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found not a spot of ground that looked like El Dorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim's shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of El Dorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride boldly, ride, the shade replied, if you seek El Dorado. There you go. And no, it does not count if you resend it. There you go. Not a poem. Yes. I'm such a good doggy. I'm such a good doggy. Fine, we'll do another one. All right, let's see what else we have. A little one. Ah! Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You're not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away, in a night or in a day, in a vision or none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seems but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them in their tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? That was fun. Hello, Dark Leopard. Thank you so much for the bits. Always very much appreciated. So, homework, people? Yes, exactly. Why are you all so obsessed with this homework? Do you really need all these responses? Is that what you believe? Stars. Why do you want these stars? Do they make you feel superior? Better? Like you are worth more? You know you are worth much more than those stars ever could be, right? Just being here with me, makes you worth even more than those stars ever could be. This is fun. I hope you get as many as you are tall. 6'4". We have 6.4 stars already. You put effort into it, so it's worth it. How high? Well, true. And you put effort into doing the form, so I suppose I can approve of that as well. Is this still British? I don't know what we're doing now, but I believe the voice fits for the moments we're having. Cara mia, is my voice good enough under this? Or am I not in the right nationality? It'll do. Well, why, thank you. I do appreciate... Oh no, we're starting to lag. You know what that means. The new game is setting up in progress. Why am I in a car? Why am I in a car? What happened? Where did this car come from? I am so confused. Help. Alright, we're going to try to load this game again. Driving in my car right after a beer. Hey, that bump is shaped like a deer. D-U high, now how about you die? Drive 100 miles an hour. Alright, we're loading the game. It might crash again, we'll see. If it crashes again, I'm going to be so upset. Vroom vroom in me mom's car. Get out in the car. Now. Now, where were we? Hello. There it is. This is the voice I'd like to use now. This voice right here. Alright, we're still loading. We're at 6,000 out of 17,000. I swear, games have only been made worse the longer they've existed. You know, there was days when games were trying to be as small as possible. They were trying to take the least amount of resources, and then we got cheap. We realized that game hard drives could handle so much more, and so games were just like, you know what? No optimization. We will not reduce the size of these files. You get them in RAW format. How could they? I hate them. As much as I enjoy games, I hate them so much. I'm going to... Don't worry, I have more. We have more cans here. You ready? We're just going to keep... Vamos de paso, PPP. Vamos a la playa. Oh, it looks like the game is actually working now. We are doing good. Alright, so this little indie game, I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, Matar Gar. Ooh, thank you so much for the redeem. Can you hear the haunting mountains? Can you... Sorry, I'm still in a car. I promise to get out of a car soon, okay? Get out of the trunk! You're not allowed in the trunk. Stop doing crime! Still learning the game. Can you hear the... Okay, wait. I don't want to start the game. Where's the settings? There they are. Okay, options. Give me a second. We're almost getting the game ready. I just need to make sure all the stuff, maximum frame rate is locked. Nice. 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 Oh, this is everything I want it to be. Perfect. Okay. Chat, are you ready? Are you ready for this tiny little indie game that I'm going to play called Matagar? I don't know if you've ever played it before, but, yeah. It's so small. Itty bitty. Oh no, why are you still here? There we go. It's a little itty bitty game that no one's ever heard of. It's 90 gigabytes. It's only 90 gigabytes. I don't know why, like, it's a tiny, small indie game no one's ever really heard of. So I don't know, like, how it is so, like, big. But we're just gonna go straight into it. We're not even gonna, like, read anything about this. We're just gonna go, right? Okay, there we go. Yeah, yeah, there we go. All right, so here we go. This really tiny little game. Matagar, I think it's what it's called.
The world was split into two, east and west. This marked the beginning.
Game loud enough, or what are we talking about? We good? It's small. It's a really tiny little indie game. I mean, like, have you ever heard of this? Konami? What kind of like, that's such a weird, see, it's not even the game, it's based on another game, so like, look how small. Indie, you've never heard of this game, don't lie to me. Oh, I gotta fix the stars real quick, give me a second. Yeah.
Flying over Pakistan, altitude 30,000 feet.
Approaching Soviet airspace. 20 minutes to drop off.
Commencing internal depressurization.
It's called Meet Al G-Ear.
All right. You ready to go?
Meet Al G-Ear.
Cav okay.
Good. We've got high visibility.
Yeah. Honestly, really good graphics for a small little indie game, though. I mean, like, the styling.
Put out that cigar. Connecting oxygen hose to interior connector. Put on your mask.
I'm a little excited. I'm really excited. Did he call him a panty waist? Did he call him a panty waist? Snake! Snake! Snake!
Put out the cigar and put on your mask.
Mito Giara. He's such a dick. He is such a dick.
Depressurization complete.
Checking oxygen supply.
6 minutes to drop off. Opening rear hatch.
Sunrise.
Oh, sunrise. I can see the sun.
External temperature minus 46 degrees Celsius. 2 minutes to drop off. Stand up.
You know, he almost looks like a snake of some sort. I wonder what they call this character.
You'll be falling at 130 miles per hour. Try not to get frostbite from the wind chill.
1 minute to drop off. Move to the rear.
Activate the alarm bottle.
This is one for the history books. The world's first Halo jump. 10 seconds to
Yeah,
drop
no,
off.
his name's Hey
Stand by.
Lizard. I love Lizard.
Status
But he's like a
okay.
super actiony hero kind of character, you know?
Prepare for drop-off.
Never stealths, not even once.
5, 4, 3.
He's a Slytherin. Oh, yeah.
Spread your wings.
Are you telling me this is Harry Potter? This can't be based on Harry Potter. That'd be a horrible game. He's like a snake, but he got legs. He's a legged snake, so they call him Legs. Yes, a legged snake, known as Legs. Hideo Kojamiya. I have good feelings about this guy.
News.
Yeah.
The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
Virtual mission.
No, the virtuous mission. The future of our Fox unit. Siege will be officially organized with the unit.
Virtuous mission. Sounds like some kind of initiation ritual.
Are you okay,
Don't
Snake?
get cocky, this isn't a training arm.
Right. So what exactly is this wonderful
We're
mission?
going to our virtuous
Well,
mission. Virtual mission.
About 2 years
Virtuous. Huh.
A certain
Virtuous
Soviet
mission.
scientist
What?
requested asylum
What?
in the West through one of our moles.
Seems
His
like
name
he's
is
still
Nikolai
stuck on the
Stepanovich
name.
Sokolov.
3 minutes later, huh?
The OKB
Vichara's mission.
75
Really?
Design Bureau,
What's that?
one of the Soviets' top secret weapon research facilities, and the East's foremost expert on weapons development.
Cool, but what's this virtual mission that I heard about?
Rocket scientist.
The very same. On April the 12th, 1961, the Soviets achieved the first manned spaceflight in history.
The Earth was blue, but there was no God.
Metagar. This is
The rocket
Metagar.
that carried Yuri Gagarin to orbit was the A-1, known as the Vostok
right.
rocket.
But what is this virtual
Sokolov
mission I hear
was the
about?
man most responsible for the multi-engine cluster.
Virtuous mission. Huh, really? What is it, though?
Gagarin's flight, Sokolov left rocket development to become the head of the newly established Design Bureau.
Enough about rockets. You haven't told me about this virtual mission yet.
Design Bureau. That's quite a success story. So why do you want
Enjoy your dinner.
It seems he'd become afraid of his own.
Don't put me in a
creation.
cage. No.
Afraid.
Yeah.
And for that, he left his country and his family behind and went over the fence.
You know, he might have been afraid of this virtual mission.
The family was also to be taken safely to the west. He used a mole to get the family out first and succeeded in sneaking Sokolov over the Berlin Wall shortly afterwards.
Really, was it a virtual mole?
I was the one who conducted the operation.
Operation Virtual Mission. I've heard about
Security
this.
inside was still full of holes back then. Then what?
We got Sokolov over in one piece, but the whole ordeal had left him exhausted, and we checked him into a hospital in West Berlin. It took him 2 weeks and more than 600 miles to get from the research facility in the Soviet Union to Berlin. He
Was it a virtual hospital? Virtual hospital, I hear.
We had something much bigger on our hands.
The Cuban Missile Crisis.
The virtual mission, yes, I remember this. Can you tell me about it?
1962, President Kennedy
Don't put me in a
received
ma-
word
no.
that the Soviets were in the process of deploying intermediate-range ballistic missiles in Cuba.
Yes.
President demanded that the Soviets dismantle and remove the missiles. At the same time, he announced a naval blockade to prevent further missile shipments from reaching Cuba.
Tell her that
But
you're
the
on a
Soviets
virtual
didn't
shopping
back
trip.
down.
See if she
They
gets a
placed their
joke.
armed forces on secondary alert. Soviet transport ships carrying missiles continued on course towards Cuba. US and Soviet forces went on alert for an all-out nuclear war. Frantic negotiations were conducted through the UN's emergency.
Yeah, but it was a
Security
virtual
Council
war,
and
right?
unofficial channels to end the hair-trigger
Yeah.
standoff. Finally, on October the 28th, the Soviet Union agreed to remove its missiles from Cuba. And so the world avoided a nuclear
I was made
holocaust.
for this cage.
But in order to get the Soviets to pull their missiles out, we had to make a deal.
Oh, wow.
One where
They
the
pulled out
US
their
deployed
missiles.
IRBMs from Turkey.
Normally you'll get canceled for doing
Jupiter
something like that.
IRBMs deployed in Turkey
Put away
were
your
obsolete.
missiles.
We were going to get rid of them anyway. They had no strategic value whatsoever to
Sorry.
the US
T.
or the Russians. The Turkey deal was a ruse, a cover story that was fed to the other intelligence agencies around the world.
So what did the Russians want?
Sokolov. They wanted us to return Sokolov.
Because he knows about the virtual mission,
Soviets
right?
pulled out of Cuba just to get their hands on Sokolov?
That's right.
I hope you know this joke's not ending. This entire stream, I'm gonna keep going with this
Time, we
bit.
had no
I'm
idea.
never stopping.
We were running out of time.
The Cuban
Either
missiles.
give up Sokolov or risk full-scale nuclear war.
Well,
In the end, we had no
we're
choice.
here now.
President
It's me,
Kennedy gave his
German
troops
Snake.
demand.
And I'm here
The next day, I got Sokolov out
to
of
ask
the
you about
hospital.
the virtual mission.
Agents on the eastern side. Sokolov kept on screaming, "Save me," until he disappeared from my sight.
Yes, I understand.
Then a month
Did we
ago,
save him from the
received
virtual
some
mission,
new
though?
information from one of our moles.
About Sokolov?
Yes. He was taken back to the research facility and forced to continue working on the weapon in question under KGB supervision. What's more, it's on the verge of completion.
Oh
So
no.
what kind of
Now
weapon
you'll
is
never
it?
learn about that virtual
Space
mission.
rockets?
No, missiles.
Same technology.
I guess you're right. We don't know the details, but it appears to be a new kind of nuclear device. For half a year now, the Soviets have been conducting nuclear tests at Semipalatinsk.
Something weaponized.
We're talking about a secret weapon so big that Khrushchev was ready to
No,
pull out of Cuba to get
I
it
wish I
back.
could pause right now, but I can't.
Sokolov's still in the facility.
No, according
Despite
to our
all my
intelligence,
raids,
he's
I am
in
still
Selino
just a
Yas,
maid in a
a
cage.
place in the mountains about 3
Come here.
miles to the west that's known as the Virgin Cliffs.
This.
The Virgin Cliffs.
The Virgin
That's
Cliffs.
For a virtuous mission.
No,
moved in
he
there
made the
just
joke! He made the joke before I could!
Apparently, they're conducting a field test of the weapon. It's our best chance to get him back. This mission would never have been possible.
How dare you.
Still in the research.
Snake, I was going to make that joke.
This is our last chance. Sokolov must have known that too when he contacted us.
Are we good? Are we done with this video now? Okay, so hear what Snake said. He goes, yes, rockets. Just like missiles are just like rockets. They're the same technology. No, Snake. If a rocket and a missile is the same technology, that's how we get those big disasters where the rocket ship goes boom. Clearly, somebody did not learn how to make a rocket properly. All right, I'm getting out of the cage. Coming out of my cage, and I was doing just
Your
fine.
mission is to infiltrate Selino-Yatsk in the Soviet mountains, ensure the safety of Sokolov, and bring him back to the west.
Hey, Doctor, this seems like a really real mission for it being virtual. Is this that new VR I've been hearing about?
Get Sokolov back before that weapon is complete. We'll be facing a major crisis.
Ah, real virtual major crisis, I understand. Are there gonna be furries? Is this one of those VR chat situations? Is it a VR chat virtual mission?
Stand by at the recovery point. A recovery balloon will be dropped at that point. Helium will be pumped into the balloon to inflate it. The process
Ah,
takes
the virtual
about 20
balloon,
minutes.
yeah, I get it.
Once it's complete, the gunship's arm will latch onto the balloon and pull it up.
The Fulton surface-to-air recovery system. I'm familiar with the theory.
Yes, the virtual theory. I know of it.
Do you think Sokolov is up to it?
I don't need to open this parachute. It's a virtual parachute. With a virtual death, I'll be fine.
She's equipped with two 6-barrel 20mm Vulcan cannons, as well as two 40mm
Vulcan cannons, that makes the V like virtuous. The virtuous, virtual Vulcan
Even
cannons.
with the fuel in the reserve tank, we're facing a 4-hour time limit.
Dween.
Well, it shouldn't take more than a few hours.
Yes, yes, Star.
Home in time for dinner.
Ah, my virtual dinner.
If anything goes wrong, you'll be eating dinner, breakfast, and all the rest of your meals in the jungle.
The virtual jungle. That's fine. I can just take off my VR headset. Thank you for that, right? I've wine! Woo! It's wine time! Ah, Kira. I take a chip. And I eat it. This is my ultimate victory. I win. Ah, this is some really real virtual ground. Thank you for the stretch. I'm a Puma. That's what they're gonna call me. They call me Puma. That's my new name, Puma Man. Secret Agent Puma. Virtual Secret Agent Puma. God damn it, wow. Sir, I've taken off my headset and it seems like everything's still here. Is this a new virtual? It's like one of those mythical creatures, like a chupa thingy. I'm gonna call it a Puma. Sir, I'm scared. Why is the virtual world still here? Is this one of those Sword Art Online situations? I didn't know you watch anime, Snake. My name's Puma, Agent Puma.
Do you copy? You're already in enemy territory. Somebody might be listening in. From here on, we'll be using code names to refer to each other.
All right, my name's Agent
The
Puma,
name for this mission will be Naked Snake.
but I'm wearing
I'll
clothes.
refer to you as Snake from
Can I be
now on.
clothed, Puma?
Just to mention your real name.
Snake.
Ah,
Don't like snakes?
not particularly. Can I be a Puma instead?
Before, haven't you?
In survival training.
I'm glad to hear that.
I don't know if I'd ever order one at a restaurant, but
Be careful. you might
No,
not
Puma. I might order a Puma at a restaurant. Can I be a Puma?
Let's see.
Virtual.
I'll be Tom. Call me Major Tom.
I like that one song.
You must not be seen
All
by
around
the enemy.
me are familiar faces. Major Tom.
Is that clear? This kind of infiltration is the Fox unit's speciality. In other words, weapons
Someone's like a goat.
are on
Clean
site.
off.
That goes for food as well. You're completely naked, just as your name implies.
Oh,
great. Now I see why you asked me if I like snakes.
got it. I'm taking off my clothes now, sir.
Your idea of a joke.
You don't have to take off your clothes, but you called me naked. I'm not gonna make you a liar.
Gotcha. Getting back to the subject, how exactly am I supposed to do myself?
You've been issued a knife and a tranquilizer gun. Use them to hunt for food. You'll also
Got
find
it.
some medical supplies
We'll see if we can find any Pumas around here. Wawa's referencing Red vs. Blue, chat. If you haven't seen it, we're gonna watch it in just a second.
I see. Well, you'd better go back and get it.
Oh wow, that looks like a virtual game, or like a mission.
I can see it from here.
A virtual
Stump
mission.
branch.
The virtuous virtual mission.
To climb a tree, stand in front of a tree that's covered in ivy and press the action button. I'll be monitoring your progress.
Oh wow, this is a game.
We can't risk violence.
Such a weird thing to say to me over these headsets.
Frequency is 140.85.
Got it, 8675-309. Got it, easy.
To talk to me, use the send function. Okay, Snake, go get your backpack.
Got it, Agent Puma. Wait, no, I'm Agent Puma. Anyway, to climb in front of a tree, get in front of it and climb it. Okay, we gotta listen to this. Give me a second. Warthog red versus blue. Never change? Okay. Hello, my name is now Mr. Banana. No, I don't know what that... I don't know where I was even gonna do this bit for. Chat, we're watching this together. We're going back in time. I hope I never get sponsored by a game and they're like, we need you to play the game for 2 hours. I'm like, cool, great. And then I stop randomly in the middle of me playing the game. Like, hey, yeah, you just showed off something completely different than the game. What? Oh, sorry, I was red versus blue.
Hurry up, ladies. This ain't no ice cream social.
Ice cream
Let's do that.
social?
Stop the pillow talk, you two.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone
Here we go.
want to guess why I gathered you here today?
Is it because the war's over and you're sitting at home?
That's exactly it, Private. War's over. We won. Turns out you're the big hero. We're gonna hold a parade in your honor.
This is red versus blue.
I get to drive the float. And Simmons here is in charge of confetti.
I'm no stranger to sarcasm, sir.
God damn it, Private. Shut your mouth or else I'll have Simmons slit your throat while you're asleep.
Oh, I'd do it too.
I know you would, Simmons. Good man. Couple of
This is-
things today,
so-
ladies.
I want to explain to you all what this is. They went into Halo, and they went onto this one map, and all they're doing is raising the gun up and down, or like looking up and down to make it look like they're talking. And so that's all it is just different angles of them talking to each other. This is just all video game.
And has seen fit to increase our ranks here at Blood Gulch Outpost number 1.
Crap. We're getting a rookie.
That's right, dead man.
Mm-hmm.
Our new recruit will be
And
here
it's so
within
good.
a week.
Is it a machinima? I guess it is a machinima.
Part of our shipment from command. Lopez,
How did you get here? Welcome.
bring up the vehicle.
Welcome. All right, here it is.
Shotgun. Fuck.
May I introduce our
Our
new
light
light reconnaissance
reconnaissance
vehicle.
vehicle.
It has 4-inch armor plating, mag buffer suspension, a mounted machine gunner position, and total seat.
It's important.
Gentlemen, this is the M12LRV. I like to call it the Warthog
Why a warthog, sir?
because
Mm-hmm.
M12LRV is too hard to say in conversation.
Oh,
son.
welcome, Wise Hum.
No.
I don't know how you ended up
I
here.
mean, it doesn't really look like a pig.
Maybe hours
Say that
ago.
again.
I think it looks more like a poop.
What in Sam hell is a puma?
You mean like the shoe company? No. Like a puma. It's a big cat. Like a lion.
Like a lion.
You're making that up.
I'm telling you.
It's a real
animal.
animal.
Simmons, I want you to poison Griff's next meal.
Yes, sir.
Look, these two toe hooks, they look like tusks.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of animal
Ah.
has tusks?
Yes, Wise Hum. Anyways, I love it. That's where the Puma bit was coming from. Yeah. Wise, this morning I was doing ASMR. Peak did raid me. And then hours later, I streamed again. 8 hours later. So, good morning! Welcome to this. We're playing a little-known indie game called Metagar. It's a lot of fun, though. So, enjoy. All right. Agent Puma. Oh, look, it's a river. I wonder if I can jump into the river. Oh, God! Oh. Good thing this is a virtual mission. See, they'll never see me coming if I throw myself to my death. No one ever sees that move. I was taught in all of our basic training. All right. Well, I'm lost already. I'm gonna lay down. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. Valid. I'm also overwhelmed. That's what happens when I exist. Oh. Ammo. That's what I need a Game Grump. You know what? Ah, we're getting a call.
Snake, where do you think you're going? You can't expect...
Who's this Snake?
Without any weapons or
My name is Cloth Puma.
First, you'll need to recover your backpack. Crawl on a tree to the south.
Have fun adulting.
To climb the tree and retrieve your
I believe in you.
Is that clear?
All right, I hear you. Oh, there's my backpack. Look at my backpack. It's up there. Anyways, see if they're gonna let me out. Oh. Okay, we're gonna ignore that. Oh. Okay, what if we go this way, though? Oh. Oh. It's like some invisible force field. No. What if I punch it? Punch the invisible wall. There we go. All right. Oh. Sorry. I don't know what I'm doing right now. All right. There you go. Don't worry, I've learned how to climb a tree. Oh. Look at me. Graceful as a ballerina. Instant backpack putting on ability.
I see you've retrieved your backpack, Snake.
How do you see me? Oh, right, this is virtual mission.
Necessary to take it out of your backpack.
Yes.
Survival viewer, choose weapon from the backpack. Your available weapons will be displayed on a list.
Has it been 5 minutes yet?
From that list, choose the weapon you
For us, I can't twirl. All I can do is
press
this.
the enter button. For other equipped items, just do the same thing from item.
Jedi.
Use the survival viewer backpack.
Yep, that's right. Survival is fundamental to this mission.
Yes.
After you've been out in the field for a while, your stamina will start to drop. If your stamina gets too low, it'll affect your performance. You won't be able to shoot accurately, for example. Your wounds won't heal smoothly. Keep an eye on your stamina so you don't run out. To recover lost stamina, you can hunt
Give
for
me a
local
second.
flora. You can use either your tranquilizer gun or your knife to hunt.
My only weapon is a Mark 22 Hush Puppy tranquilizer gun.
That's right. It's been fitted with its own suppressor. However, the suppressor will deteriorate every time you fire. Once its durability reaches 0, the noise suppression effect will be gone. So don't get too trigger happy with it. The suppressor's durability is shown in the item. Any weapons and equipment beyond what you're carrying now, you'll have to find as you go.
I have to find my own weapons and equipment? Whose crazy idea was this anyway?
Don't worry, it's virtual equipment. We'll be fine. I'm not drunk. I barely drank anything.
Any traces of your presence. No weapons,
so,
sweat, or bodily waste.
it's so old school action movie. I love it.
Enemy territory is already a violation of international
'Cause they're like the-
conventions of warfare.
All the characters, thank you for the hydrate. All the characters are so dramatic.
It could spark
They're over the top. They're the best.
You can't let anyone see. You can't let the enemy know that. It's a stealth
I'll do what I want. Fight me.
Ghosts.
No.
No rescue.
I'm a ghost. I thought I was a puma.
Military and US government will
Am I a
deny
ghost
any
puma?
involvement in the affair.
Then
A clothed ghost puma.
I'm afraid so. You've been given a fake death pill for that purpose. SIS guidelines stipulate that soldiers on covert ops like this one
They gave me a suicide pill. What?
tape it to your body so you can take it.
I thought you said survival was important.
Use it if you're taken prisoner by the enemy.
Survival is so important. Kill yourself. What? Yeah. Ah.
that I'm really dead. So how do I come
Oh,
back to life?
it's a fake suicide pill.
You mean that thing they put in my tooth before the mission?
That's the
No,
one.
that was dental
Be
work.
careful. If you remain in a state of false death for too long, nothing will be
Don't
able
bite
to
that
bring you
tooth.
back.
That's a real tooth. It's just gonna really hurt.
Keep it in mind. You said this was a solo mission.
Got it. Bite my tooth. No, don't bite your tooth. It's a real tooth. It's just gonna hurt. Got it. Biting my tooth now.
In your hand.
A real one-man army.
Relax. There's a support team ready to back you up over the radio.
Who?
Oh no, it's a virtual tooth. That's fine. That's virtual poison tooth.
The first member of the support team will be in charge of monitoring your physical condition, acting as a medic, so to speak, as well as recording your...
Da-da-da. I'm here. Congratulations.
She's here on the gunship with me.
There's foxes here. I thought there was only pumas.
I'm paramedic. Nice
Hello, paramedic.
As in a medic who comes in by parachute.
No, that's a stupid name.
Are you going to tell me yours, Mr. Snake?
Yes, it's Puma.
It's John Doe.
And they call you
Write that
Snake
down.
for short. You're a regular Captain Nemo.
No, it's John Doe. I just told you my name.
After a week, no one has a name. What's your name?
Jane Doe.
Very funny.
I wasn't joking, but I'll tell you my name only if you manage to make it back alive.
Hey, gold medicine.
145.73.
Got
She's
it.
also in charge of recording your mission data. Whenever you want to save,
What was-
send a message over the reserved save frequency, 140.96.
Oh, God.
It lets me record my mission data.
That's right. It also records the state of your health.
Good to know.
Oh, whoa. Thank you so much for the redeem.
Speaking of snakes, you remember the boss, don't you?
Yes.
A legendary soldier and your mentor.
The
Actually, it was
lion.
the boss who got the DCI's authorization in the first place. She's going to be
I want to
serving
make my
as
joke, but they're
mission.
talking for too long.
Bosses.
She also helped me plan this mission. She and I were at SAS together.
Yeah. Sahasa.
How many years has it been?
Boss?
My name's
That's right.
Puma.
It's me. Talk to me. Let me hear your voice.
Okay.
72 days and 18 hours.
Not that I'm counting.
Wait.
You calling me fat?
Sound of my voice.
Of course I can.
Yeah, you're like 500 pounds and you kept going. But it sounds like you've lost that weight.
What's that supposed to mean?
I take my
Why
meds. I
did you
did.
get on me all of a sudden?
I was on a top secret mission. You didn't know
Yeah.
me anymore.
But there were still so many things I wanted you to teach me.
Like patty cake. Tactical
I taught
patty
you
cake.
everything you needed to know about fighting techniques.
Mm-hmm.
I taught you all I could.
You never taught me how to tie my shoes. I have to wear Velcro. Do you know how unstealthy Velcro is?
But what about how to think like a soldier?
Yeah.
How to think like a soldier?
What's 1 plus 1?
A soldier needs to be strong in spirit, body, and technique. And the only thing you can learn from someone else is technique. In
Got
fact,
it.
Technique doesn't even matter. What's most important is spirit.
Who's Nick and why is he
Spirit and
teching?
body are like two sides of a single coin. They're the same thing.
Are you talking about Christianity?
How to think.
Am I supposed to be doing Bible studies now?
Listen to me, Jack. Just
My name's
because
Puma.
soldiers are on the same side right now doesn't mean they always will be. Having personal
Vel.
comrades is one of the
All right,
worst
see if I can do this one. Here we are. Here we are.
politics
Snake.
determine who you face on the
I'm here to tell you something.
battlefield.
I can't do... Wait, this isn't the right voice at all. What voice is this? No.
Is that how you abandoned me?
No, it had nothing to do with me.
Jesus
I
does.
already told you, Jack. I
God,
was on a
wow,
mission.
how could you? I haven't even read the book yet. I haven't even purchased it. I was going to get a signed copy from the one and only man himself,
For a reason to fight.
Mr. Judas.
You're a natural-born
I thought he'd be the one to tell me,
you're
but
not
you know.
quite a soldier. A soldier is a political tool, nothing more. That's doubly true if he's a career soldier. Right and
The
wrong
only
have
problem is I
no
can't remember how any voice
place.
sounds. There it is. This is the voice that I should use now.
The mission.
Very easy.
Follow the orders you
Mm-hmm.
get. That's what being a soldier is.
I do
Nice.
whatever I have to get the job done.
Yes?
I don't think
And what
about
job is that, Mr.
politics.
Puma?
That's not the same thing. Sooner or later, your conscience is going to bother you.
Oh, let me do a little stretch right now. I'm gonna do a little.
Going to live as a soldier,
Ah.
or just another man with a gun.
Got it.
There's a saying in the Orient: loyalty to the end. Do you know what it means?
Being
I assume it sounds a lot better in whatever you consider the Orient language. Miss Moss, that was very racist, honestly.
ready to die for
I mean, who would have said something like that?
President and the top brass won't
The
go
Orient,
forever.
that's not a real
When
place.
terms are up,
We
others
have
will
individual countries there. We have China, Japan,
no matter who's in
India,
charge.
quite a few different countries. You can't just call it the Orient. Crazy.
Then who does?
The times. People's values change over time. and so do the leaders of a
All right,
country.
I'm supposed to be
So there's
taking
no
off the
such
main dress
thing
at this
as
point,
one
aren't I?
absolute
Well, I
truth.
suppose it can wait a
The
little bit
enemies we
longer.
fight are only enemies in relative terms,
Right.
constantly changing with the times.
We're fighting our relatives. We're going to beat up my cousins. I hear you. Chat, they're my virtual cousins out there, and we'll take them out. Mm-hmm.
And that's the way a soldier's supposed to think.
The only thing we can believe in with absolute certainty is the mission, Jack.
All right.
Right. But do me a favor.
Who's Jack?
Call me Snake.
It's actually Puma.
All right. Your code name is Snake. It suits you well.
I doesn't really actually. I still have both my hands, arms, legs, whole limbs.
The Cobra Unit, a group of heroes that brought
It wouldn't really make sense for me to be a snake. I don't slither on the ground. I actually walk around. Maybe a lizard would be better for it, honestly. Or maybe somebody stealthy, like a large cat. Maybe a puma.
One more thing, boss.
Yes.
Oh, couldn't be.
It's good to hear your voice again.
Yeah.
Same here. After all, who knows if either of us will make it out alive? Snake, you were always best.
Oh, don't worry. It's just a virtual mission. It's only a virtual mission. You don't have to worry about it. It's fine. Easy.
CQC techniques I taught you are sure to come.
He really doesn't look like a warthog.
CQC.
CQC, I understood.
Combat, huh?
Quick. No, wrong letter. C.
Not to worry.
Change.
I'll be here to help you remember.
Quietly.
This is your first actual survival mission.
Commander.
I'll be supporting you.
There we go. That makes sense.
Where are you, boss? Next to the major?
The boss is communicating with us by radio from aboard
Right.
a Permit-class submarine in the Arctic Ocean.
Right. The virtual ocean, Arctic.
141.80. Call me if you need
I hope I don't need to know any of these numbers.
Gotcha.
Your mission
Virtual
is to
Pumas.
retrieve Dr. Sokolov. Dr. Sokolov
All right.
is being held in an abandoned
But
factory
is it a real
north of
Dr. Sokolov, or is it a virtual Dr.
Avoid
Sokolov?
enemy combat and don't let anyone see you. Don't forget that this is a stealth mission.
Right. Virtual stealth, though. So if it's virtual stealth, it means it's not real stealth. So that means we're going in hard and quick in action. Right? We got this. Anyways, I can take off my dress now. Let me strip naked real quick. Give me a second, lovelies. All right, where is it? Where is it? Aha! Oh no! Oh no, wrong color! Help! Hit the wrong button! No! Ah! There we go. All right, go. Okay, so I think it's funny that the entire time he's like, yes, Snake. What's really important to this mission is survival. Unlike the other missions, where we're totally fine with you being dead, honestly. So, oh hey, look, it's a snake. I took out the snake. The snake evaporated into nothingness. This is an acid gun. This is a gun filled with acid. I do not know how I feel about a gun filled with acid. Seems very dangerous. Perhaps we shouldn't, be having, yeah, hit him with the factory reset ray gun. It's all right. It's all right. He's gone forever now. It was a virtual snake. Oh, that's why he turned into virtual pixels. I understand. Open the radio window. Got it. Oh, I see. Let's call it the nothing radio. Didn't answer. All right, where's... Air control to Tom Major. Air control to Tom Major. Come in, air control.
Saving the game, Snake?
Yes, why are you asking? Can't a man do anything in his peace?
Hey, Snake, you ever heard of Godzilla, King of Monsters?
No, I've only heard Puma.
You haven't seen it?
What's a movie?
It's about this monster called...
Is it like a virtual mission?
To an enormous size in a nuclear test and goes on a rampage in Tokyo.
No, virtual Tokyo. My favorite.
What giant monsters right about now?
It's just make-believe.
What is make-believe?
So tight lately.
Snake, it's a movie, not a report out of Los Alamos.
I know. So then what happened?
Godzilla is immune to all weapons, and humanity has no way to stop the monster. Dr. Shirazawa develops a new type of weapon.
I saw a large monster. Maybe that's why I've been tightening my pants lately. Who says that?
Everything in its path. It was originally a Japanese movie, but they made an American version too. I recommend seeing the original Japanese one if you ever get the chance.
Right.
It's mostly mindless fun, but it's also got a serious anti-nuke message as well.
Where can I see the original?
You just have to go to Japan.
Really?
Really?
It's too bad.
If you wait 40 years, you might be able to see it in America too. It might even win awards all across the globe in 60
Oh my god, it's like she's from the future.
2024 will be Godzilla's 70th birthday.
That's crazy.
They're still going to be making Godzilla movies then?
Of course.
This is so stupid. All I wanted to do was save.
I don't suppose you're the movie-watching type, are you?
I was just going out here to save.
Then I'll tell you everything I know. When the
Hey,
time
Snake.
is up,
Hi, Snake. I see you want to save the game real quick. That's great, right? Cool. Have you heard about Godzilla? No, what's Godzilla? Oh, it's a movie. What's a movie? It's a thing that they watch on TV. Oh, is that why I'm tightening my pants? Snake, that's a weird thing to say. Anyways, 2025 is when there's 70, or 2024 is when they... What? What? Sir. I'm so lost now. No. Wow. We X out the Christ, so it's now Xzilla. As in Xzilla gonna give it to you. I'm gonna give it to you. X gonna give it to you. Oh God. It's a large monstrous thing. It's like a log. What do I do? Oh. Wow. It's beautiful. Gorgeous. Amazing. Luckily, it's all virtual.
Snake, respond. Snake.
So what happened? Well, the special agent we sent in to take care of the issue, yeah. He saw a cliff and threw himself off of it, going, it's only a virtual mission. And he just died. He did what? Yeah. Crazy. What was his name? Naked Snake. Weird. You should have called him like Clothed Puma or something. I'd been like more. Oh, God, it's an alligator. I'm gonna kill you. Oh God, he's alive again. Crawl away, super fast and aggressive. I'm gonna make it. I'm fighting. Wait. So what happened to Special Agent Puma? Naked Snake. Right. What happened to him? Well, you see, he crawled on the ground face first into the water and immediately drowned. What do you mean immediately drowned? We think he swallowed the mud. He just right into the mud. For some reason, why would he do that? Honestly, sir, we're not 100% certain. Oh, God. Don't worry, I can stab you. Oh, God, his tail. Oh, okay. I'm very scared. Just crawl into the water face first. No, it's fine. There we go. Got him. All right, we're going to sneak up behind him. Oh, God, his tail. All right, I got this. I'm going to beat him. Just got to shoot him again. Oh, okay, God, he stopped. Oh, God, his tail. All right, we're going to answer this.
Snake, do you read? Snake.
Hey, what's up? Major.
Snake, are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm okay.
Virtual.
Far from okay. Look at your life gauge. You're on your last leg.
No.
I still have 2 legs.
See?
Snake, this is a solo sneaking mission. Do you
Got
know what
it.
it means?
Yeah.
Don't worry.
No, you don't. It means there's no backup, no cover. You're taken out.
Find a hiding place and get some rest. Your life gauge will gradually recover with time. But the speed of your life gauge recovery depends on the level of your stamina gauge. So get ready to eat and get some
What is he doing? What is he? Why did he do that? Why did he? I'm gonna sneak. I'm gonna lay in the mud, and I'm gonna sing into the mud real quick. It's fine. I'm gonna sneak into. I'm gonna sing it. No, but okay. So I'm playing Snake really stupid, right? You know, like I'm playing him up as a stupid character because I think it's funny. The idea of him being a super action hero but being like stupid, but him going like, "It's a solo mission. You know what that means, right?" Yes. No, you don't. What? No, solo is like a grade 1 word. People know what the word solo means, sir. I don't care how stupid Snake might be, as we like to call him, Stupid Snake back here. But like, but like, really? Oh God, there's more crocodiles. Oh God. You know, they're like low crawling creatures with scales. You might even call them snakes. Yeah, I think that might be oh, bees. Oh God, bees. Oh, good thing there's no bees in the bee nest. I was gonna see if I can grab these real quick. All right, ointment. I love me some ointment. All right, what if can I punch the? We're gonna punch him real quick. Punch around him. All right, well. All right, I'm gonna slither through the grass, like some sort of scaled creature without arms. Some I call a puma. That's right. We're crawling around. We're slithering like a puma. You know, the puma's yeah. I'm a sneaky little puma. Hello. Hi, Boku. How you doing? All right, well. A what, Nix? Do you mean a lizard? Oh, I hear it. Quiet. They said there's snakes down here, right?
Major,
It's one weird looking.
I've spotted 2 enemy soldiers.
I spotted 2 snakes. Since when do snakes carry guns, Major? You said there's only snakes down here.
Snake, your
That's right, Evie.
Soviet
I do.
is already a violation of international law. You can't let the Kremlin find out that the CIA and the American government are involved. Contact with the enemy is strictly prohibited. Don't engage them in battle either.
I was gonna ask one out to the dance.
Got that?
Right. A solo stealth mission, meaning I run in and ask them to go to the dance. The formal. Oh, right.
Camouflage. Change your camouflage by selecting camouflage from the survival viewer.
Got it.
The uniform option lets you pick your uniform, while the face option lets you change your face paint. Choosing camouflage that blends in with your surroundings will help you conceal yourself.
All right, I'm gonna pick the most stealthy paint.
Don't forget that anything that moves will stand out in the jungle. If
Got
you
it.
stand up and run around like an idiot, you're bound to be spotted.
I would never.
If you crawl instead, you should be able to sneak by without being noticed.
Understood.
How effective your camouflage is by looking at the camo index. The camo index shows how well your current camouflage blends in with the surrounding.
Right.
The higher
I'm a
the
crawl,
value, the
slither
harder you are
like
to
a puma.
spot, and vice versa.
All right.
The key is to make yourself one with nature.
Got
Keep
it.
that in mind as you go along, okay?
Got it. All right, we're gonna go see what kind of stuff we have in here. Oh no! They're doing it. They're making me naked puma. All right, stealthy. Yes, I'm ready. You see, they'll never... Wait. No. That's ridiculous. See, they'll never see me. Because I'm wearing the Soviet Union flag, they'll think I'm one of them. I'm just a soccer hooligan. I'm ready. It's time to stealth. Caca. Slithery, slithery puma. All right. Sneaky, like some sort of sneaking animal that crawls on the ground. The Russian puma. Oh no. I'm just a snake. I don't know what that is, though. Like a scaled lizard of some sort. Oh god, he sees me. Hello. Hello, I'm here to engage you. Give me a kiss. Mwah. Oh no. Oh no. Wait. Oh god, I made him poop. Anyways. Why do I sound like Beagle Goose? Oh, he doesn't see me. I'm a stealthy little puma. Beetlejuice. Yes, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. All right, we're going stealth in here. Oh, God, he might have seen me. Oh no. Oh, no. I did it. Stealthy, like a puma. Oh, God. Oh, God. Hey, stop calling people. There's nobody, they said no contacts. That means you're not allowed to use your phone. Oh, God. Oh, God. I got him. Ah. All right, do you have a gun? I lost mine. All I have is hands now. That's right, we be throwing hands. It's running Puma style. Pumatine, as you would somebody call it. Not serpentine, Pumatine. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I'm so fast, you'll never see me coming. They'll never see me coming. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, no. Where'd they go? Oh, whoops. Where is he? Where'd he go? Why didn't alert? Where is he? No. Oh, no. No, don't worry. We're just going to pick him up. I'm going to shake the poo. Oh! I'm not doing anything! Don't worry! Help! All right, we're dodging. Hand punch. Oh, missed. God. Puma kick. Puma punch. Puma nut shot. I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Oh, my ammo's full. Can I take his gun? No. Okay, I have to figure out what happened to my gun because it's gone now. I found my gun. Look at me. This is the classic Puma pose. Meow. What is they by say in Japan? Yeah. Make a beagle goose. Oh God, he's back up. Go back down. No, oh Jesus. No, stop being alive. No, oh God. No. That's a good thing I didn't panic. Nice, you think we can take his gun? No. Sorry, I had to sniff his crotch real quick just to make sure he's really unconscious. Oh, he dropped more stuff. A grenade. Interesting. Wonder if that could be useful. Oh, we're going to stealthily Stealthily. 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 I can't find it. Wait. Maybe here. Oh, what's this? It's a microphone. Hello, sir. Hello? Nah, he's unconscious. Anyways, where's the grenade? Let me use the grenade. I need to figure this out. Wait. I'm such a good doggy. There it is. All right. I got this. I got this. You ready? I'm gonna very stealthily put him out of his misery. No, he's still alive. That's fine. I'm just making his leg bleed a little bit. All right, we're just gonna... Oh, God. He's found me. I wasn't going to stab your friend. I promise. All right. Now we're going to stealthily swap to a grenade. I have my weapon of stealth. All right. I'm just going to very stealthily remove the pen. Stealthily lay this grenade on his legs. Stealthily wait. Oh, good. Glad there was no noise for that. Oh, we heard.
Patrol here. We're under enemy fire.
Oh, we're gonna... What do you mean fire? There's no fire. Only gone. Alright, here you go. I was gonna... Yay. Alright, come on. Oh God, I'm falling. What happens if I hit the... Wait. Anyways, it's time to take this game seriously. Alright, we're gonna seriously do some stealth damage. Don't worry, I'm a Soviet spy. Soviet spy, Puma. You don't see me, because my hand is in front of my face. You'll never see me. They'll never see me coming. Yeah. Puma stealth. Alright, now we're gonna go hide. Oh God. They're seeing me. I made them take a... I am crazy. Crazy like a fox. Or a puma, one might say. Alright. Equipping stealth device. Alright, we're safe. Ah, Jesus!
Patrol here. The enemy is attacking from an unknown position.
No.
Alert status.
Am I a bear or a fox? Oh. Really? Really, Nix? Nix, there's so many things I could be. You think I'm a bear or a fox? Really? Clearly I'm a puma. I'm a puma. Oh God, he found me. Don't worry. I'm stealthing. Hey, Asher. Did you bring me tacos? Okay. Ah, Jesus. All right, we're climbing. Snake. Okay. Yeah. Wah, puma kick. Puma murder. Yeah, puma punch. All right. Puma dodge, Puma style. Why am I behaving? What did I do? I said I'm a puma. What's wrong with being a puma? This is gonna be added to your vocal sims. What? Which part? I don't know. They don't expect a thing. I'm a traditional Soviet orange. It's in all the jungles.
Major, I've reached the abandoned factory where Sokolov is supposedly being held. This place is a dump.
Nobody's seen me so far. I've been super stealthy. No.
I can't see Sokolov from here. Security is tight. There are sentries posted along the perimeter. I wonder how many are inside.
Snake playing hide and go seek. I can't see anybody from here. My hands are over my eyes. I wonder where they could be.
Northeast section. Got it.
Be careful. Your mission is to bring
You told Snake to meet you in the McDonald's. He's like, I'm outside. I can't see inside. I don't see him from here. I'm wearing binoculars, and all I see is a wall. Look away from the wall, Snake. No, I'm looking at this wall. He might be on this wall, honestly.
I want you to tell him something from me.
And that is,
Sorry for being so late.
Are you a voice actor?
Yes.
Yes. I'm actually,
my approach to the target.
Hey, who's that? Jonah Scott. I'm Jonah Scott, actually. I am Jonah Scott. Didn't mean to... Sorry y'all had to find out this way, but I've actually been Jonah Scott this entire time. Fine. I'll play the voice acting demo reel at the end of stream. Perfect. Technically, it is the middle of stream, so that means I can read everybody else who checked in. Everybody, it's time for me to read all the check-ins because we're at the middle of the stream. So, give me a second while I switch to a thing. Really? You forgot your own name? Yeah, I'm totally Jonah Scott. All right, Twitch activity feed. Let's see. Filter. What you see? Oh, what you never wanted. Okay, where were we? So Wolfos Untamed. Wolfos Untamed, thank you for the check-in. Hello, 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 Useless Huntress. Hello, Samurai Queen. Hello, Deshaun. That's the wrong voice. Where is it? It is. Oh, who's Alali? Hello, welcome. I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. This is still the wrong voice. There it is. There's the German. Okay, good. Hello, Rainy Day. Hello, Rina Mariaco. Hello, Spooky Nemi. Hello, Silver Vang again. Hello, Matty. Hello, Russell Viper. Hello, M31 Andromeda. If you'd like me to say hello and you haven't yet, check in. Hello, Onyx. Hello, Solian. Hello, Sinful Microwave. Hello, SKZ Fan. Thank you for the hydrate. Hello, Nemiria Meow. Where are we? Here. We are here. Was there's another check-in. Hello, Kitty Goth. Hello, CC Bear. Und we have more here. We have the Hello, Danny Cat Games. Und hello, Rookie's Rebellion. Where are we? We are the next one here. Hello, Sadie Batty. Hello, Aiko. Hello, Aiko. I don't know if you're still here, but hello. Hello, Shadow Destroyer. Hello, Ruby Ship Meow. Hello, Boku. Hello, Mukia. Mumu. Hello, Buttertub. Hello, Tired Nap Time. Und hello, Alex. Und hello, Dumpster Trash Fox. Hello, Lily Spook Paradise. Und hello, Renda. And hello, Black Silver. There we are. We have them. Rina Mariaco. Do you all want to hear the voice acting demo? I mean, we've played it 1 billion times. Somebody will hate me if I play it again, right? You would all hate me if I played it? I knew it. As a Brit craves freedom. Yeah, okay, perfect. We'll play it now then. We're playing it! I don't think I'm gonna make it! My legs hurt! Even my brain hurts!
Reversing the polarity will cause a cataclysmic reaction of... turn the dials right. Make device go boom!
I thought I'd left you dead in the desert. I mean, haunted by ghosts, ain't I? I guess I deserve it.
Good evening, fellow Mad Cats. DJ Fang is ready to spin more records. Coming up next, 12 commercials back to back. My favorite.
You made it! I didn't think you'd come. No one else has. Still, you seriously made my day. We are not taking any more party members. Wait, are you wearing a dead possum as a scarf?
Nah, she ain't dead. She's just scared. The poor sweetie pie.
Please, take a seat. Right here, by my side.
Where you can't get away so easily.
I am Nerd. Hear me roar. I can't really roar that well, but I'm trying, okay?
Well, that's what the last guy thought. And you don't want to know what happened to him.
Do not be blinded by fear, my child. Embrace it. Welcome it. Let it pass. Remember, only you shall remain in the end.
Did somebody ask for a walk? We are here, and I'm going to be bad. It's me, I'm Solid Snake. That's who I sound like. Here we go. I got this. Oh, thank you. Yes, this is what all the British people actually sound like right here. This is the British. I'm British. I got you. Yeah. All right, we're gonna keep the most stealthily gone here. Yeah. I'll do a little fire shot. Boom. Look at him fall over. He's such a smelly boy. That's why he fell over, because he's so smelly. Oh, that's right. That's what happens when you don't shower enough. You fall over from the smell. Oh, God. Don't worry. We're stealthy. We'll match the environment right now. I painted myself orange. And you know what that means? Wait, no. No, if we're gonna be proper here. Give me a second. That's not a good one. That's not. Oh, what's gonna do? Nope. Well. All right. Yeah. Mate, we're gonna wear. I'm a Swedish boy. As close as we can get to purple. We all know. Wait, was it blue? Give me a second. Alexa, what colors make orcs invisible?
From Quora.com. Orcs were not grayish-brown. Orcs were described by looking as squat.
Give me a second. I gotta look it up. Orc invisibility color. All right, purple. Yeah, we need purple. It can't be invisible. But if I paint myself red, we'll go fast. It's true. Or is it yellow? I can't really remember my colors. Evil snarly laugh is good too. It's just the brain. Thank you.
Anyways, where were we? More Alexa ignored you when you mentioned orcs. Oh, well. Your Alexa doesn't approve of nerds, does it? Very, very peculiar. We're gonna make a little noise here. We gotta go. Boom, ta, da boom, boom, ta, boom, ta, ba boom, boom. Oh, give me a second. We're just gonna do a little boom, 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 boom. Come on out here. Come on. Hello, puppet. Hello, puppet. Come on. Do you think this is a normal noise to be hearing? Boom, crash, the sound. You know what? We're just gonna do this. Oh no, he moved. No. Oh, we got him. Oh God, it exploded. Well, that might not have been the perfect move to have done.
Patrol here. We found signs of an intruder.
No, you didn't. That's a normal explosion that happens sometimes. All right, ignore the man hanging here. It's fine. I'm all right. I got this. Oh. I'm sorry. I found the greatest stealth weapon of all time. Here. As we've told all the British people, understand stealth very well, right? So we're going to swap to the stealth gun. Don't worry, we'll do this properly. We are changing our face paint. I'm ready. There we go. A proper soccer hooligan. I am now acquired my British regalia. And we have the best gun for stealth. Here we go. I'm ready. Hello. As the British people say, goodbye. Oh, jeez. Don't worry, we got a gun. It's fine. Yeah, no. We're super stealthy. Someone deemed British, exactly. And so now we are being British. Why are you electrocuting yourself? Oh, there it is. Oh, there's another one. Hello! Oh, don't worry, I'm just reloading real quick. Thank you for being patient. Where are you? And I'm so sorry. Oh, there you are. Hello. Why are you stabbing me for? Let me get up real quick. Aye! Stop it. There's another one. Hello. Goodbye. You say hello and I say goodbye. Hello, good. Oh, I'm out of ammo. Don't worry, we can do the most quick, actiony, safe-moving moves here. They'll never hit me. I'm too fast. No, this is clearly a British man. Watch as the solid snake runs back and forth across the environment. They'll spook out that I'm running too fast. They can't even see me. Oh, no, I stopped moving. There we go. And there it is. And now we dodge, and we hit him. Oh, we miss. We hit him with our Puma stealth. Stop moving, stop moving. Ow, that was a knife. I died. Oh, well, we know what happens now. Clearly, the British Puma is much weaker than its native clothes Puma. We are now going to redress, change our clothes. We're getting very naked now. The Puma stalks its prey through the environment. It feels itchy as the grass rubs against its exposed nipples. The Puma forgets it has a plant allergy. The Puma moves stealthily behind the man before beating him to death. Congratulations, Puma. The Puma is too fast, too furious. The Puma has been here before, and it knows there's a gun hidden here. The Puma hears something. It's spooked. But sees nothing. Could it be another Puma? The Puma approaches gracefully, stealthily. Oh no, it has alerted something. Good thing the Puma remembers its first lesson in stealth. I'm sorry. Yo, I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of entered a flow state there of absolute ADD. The Puma uses the most stealthful weapon. By Jove. Don't worry. The Puma knows something that no one else will. All Pumas come equipped with a 12-gauge shotgun. Oh, don't worry. I will stealthily murder this man. He never saw it coming. Good thing I'm so stealthful. We've taken him out with pure stealth. The graceful Puma. Oh God, a bird! Sorry, we're fine. Oh. Is that what I think it is? Give me a second. Oh, once. You can, if you want to leave, you can leave. You're fine. Or you can just stay here and check in, or do nothing, or whatever. I understand. If you hate me, don't worry. I see something. What is that? The wild Mountain Dew bottle. Proof that Mountain Dew is nature's beverage. I have a hornet's nest. Do I? Oh! Oh! Interesting. Well, Chad, I found the Puma's giant anaconda. Is this that naked snake they were talking about all the time? You wanna see his naked snake? Oh damn. God, he's hot. Ooh, ooh. What? There's a snake in my pants. Wait, no, that's not how the quote goes. My anaconda don't. My anaconda don't. All right, we're going to. No, jeez. Well. Okay, good thing. Right. Explosive diarrhea. Oh, hey, look. It's a rock. Oh, God, it's a duck. That is not, no. 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 That is not the kind of noise a duck makes. Gaga? No. Oh, God. Yeah. God, I love it. I love grabbing his legs and then pulling out a grenade from his butt. God, I'm so stealth. Radio, we need to be shot in the face. Oh, gun. Give me a gun. Ah, no! No, they're coming! Ah! You should have stayed asleep. Should have stayed asleep. Wouldn't have had to kill you. Go to bed. Chad, I'm just like Batman. They're just going to sleep. All I do is put them to bed. That's right. Oh, God. Like, the one thing I don't know how to fight against, a locked door. Oh, God. The box is my number one enemy. Oh, a fence is my number one enemy. Alright, well. I was gonna... God, ladders. My number one enemy. Okay. Birds, my number one enemy. Ah, God. That's fine. I've defeated my number one enemy. All right, we're gonna eat this giant gift.
Tasty.
God, I stopped my number one enemy. Oh God, it's a bird. It's my number one enemy. The puma has few natural enemies. Number one being locked fences and blackbirds. Good thing that ammunition's asleep now. Don't worry. I collected a bird. No. The natural habit of the naked puma. Alright, we're just gonna sneak around here. They haven't seen me yet. We're safe. I'm actually so lost, genuinely. Good thing they haven't seen me yet. So stealth. Good thing they don't know I'm out here. Oh, look at him. You're shooting at nothing. There's nothing out here. Ow, you hit nothing. Crawl away stealthily. Oh God, he kicked nothing. How are you seeing me? I'm so nothing right now. Oh, jeez. Dodge. Ow. Dodged. Bullets didn't hurt me. No. God, dodging. I'm sorry. Oh, good thing they didn't see me. Really quickly going to do a tactical little move here to hide. So nobody can see me while I'm crouching. Alright. Stealthily. Yes, tomorrow's horror night. Yeah, what's up? Oh, they fixed the bridge. No. Oh God, there's a guy out there. I should be stealthful around him. No. Oh, they didn't fix the bridge. Okay. I think we might be screwed because I'm already lost. So like here, okay? Sorry, let me pull out my stealth gun. No, we're just gonna. Ah, yes, my tactical hornet's nest. Ah. I like that your name is Red Faye, but every time my bot reads it, it sounds like Rigby. So I'm just like, oh yeah, where's Mordecai? Where's Mordecai, Rigby? Rigby. Thank you for the stretch, Red Faye. Where's Mordecai? Anyways, all right, we found the duck. We tactfully, very tactfully and stealthily killed everybody. And then there's a locked door here. Climb! Does anybody remember how to climb? Oh. No way. No way. No way. No. What? What? Huh? Huh? Ah, fine. Let's go find a key. I mean, I guess it's an exploding barrel. It can't be that strong, right? All right. Sir, do you have a key? Sir, key? Key. Can I key? All right, let me check your crotch. Nope, that's an ammo. Cool. All right, what about you over here? No. I see a hole. Right. All right, maybe up here? No. Oh. We're gonna do a little stealth move here. There we go. We're gonna stealthily blow that up. No. You don't know. All right, maybe you. So I need to check your crotch real quick. Okay. I'm such a good doggy. No, it's just a chafe grenade. It's fine. All right, sir. I want to check you real quick. We're just gonna. The back of his neck smells like. Oh, nope, ammo. Okay. Yep. Stinky. All of you. Stinky. Oh, God. All right, we're gonna see if I can crawl underneath this gate. One of you didn't shower. I know. Raise your hand right now if you didn't shower. Oh, I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. I could eat a sound whistling thrush. Yummy.
Pretty tasty.
Snake. What the frick? Sir? Stop being weird. Man, just... pretty tasty. Oh, God, it's a snake. Oh, God, it's a rat. All right, see who wins. Rat versus snake. Let's go. No. I'm just gonna slither by. Oh, looks like you slither, too. What are you, a puma of some sort? Oh, God, it's coming for me. The puma's trying to attack. Help. Help me quickly. The puma's coming for me. Oh, there's another puma. God, there's so many secret pumas around here. Nobody told me the jungle would have so many pumas. Right. Have to climb. Have to climb. No, it doesn't work there. Am I stupid? I might be stupid. It's okay. Here we go. Point me in the direction of my mission statement, sir. I'm not. We're all a little stupid. It's true. Okay. Oh, the mission is in there. Oh, how was I supposed to know that? All right, we're gonna head over here. Oh, the mission is over there. Oh, where's the mission? All right, we're gonna go over here. Oh, it's this door. Hello, Lady Crossart. Today is going to be really weird for you. Oh, good doggy. I'm such a good doggy. Hello. Look at me throwing away all these virtual documents.
You must be Sokolov.
Ah, yes, it's virtual Sokolov.
Vulcan's men. You'll never.
What are you doing, lady? Welcome.
I'm a CIA agent. I've
They call me Puma.
to the other side of the Iron Curtain.
You're CIA.
Yeah. I was sent by Chris,
That's fair.
the man who got you out 2 years ago.
Yes, it's one less than one. Yeah.
What is it?
You smell like poop. Anyways, leaving now.
Being so late.
Bye.
Get here now.
What does it mean?
It means he's a man of his word.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got no time for this. You have to get me out of here before they arrive.
Oh, sweet, I can pause. Chat, I need to do something real quick, because it's been a little bit. For those of you who are new, and who haven't been here for a while, you might recognize something here. I'm going to show you a little treat, a little favor that I do for everybody. Here you go. This is the basement. You might not recognize it, but if you do, isn't it beautiful? I just need you, though, to stand right there. No. Hey, back up a little bit. A little further. Come on, a few steps back. Come on, a little... There we go. Perfect. Anyways. Good. Now you're stuck here. You never leave now. My lovely voidlings. Fine, we'll shake the cage a little bit and swing. But of course, I'm glad you enjoy it. Swing, 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 swing. If any of my audios can help anybody, I'm very happy. I know you like the swings, because y'all a little goofy. Stop throwing up in the cage.
They, Colonel Volgin of Gru. You from the West know him as
His monocle is pierced to his ear. Why?
He's a member of the army's extremist faction, a man who seeks to seize control of the motherland. Ever since the Cuban...
Oh, 1 second.
Khrushchev has been pursuing a policy of peaceful coexistence with the West. Despite resistance and criticism from hawks in the army and the provincial authorities, Khrushchev has managed to suppress the opposition so far. But the failure of his agricultural policies has put him in a precarious position. And on top of that, the tragedy last November.
President Kennedy's assassination.
Precisely. In a
Got
sense,
it.
Khrushchev has lost his biggest partner, and his power base is rapidly
Virtual
crumbling away.
Kennedy.
A certain group.
Is that just like a Chad face, man? Why do they all have the Chad face? It's like a low poly Chad face. Look at that man.
Overthrowing Khrushchev.
There's too many edges to his face.
In his place. The mastermind behind this
6 more minutes.
Colonel Volgin of the Gru. He has control over another secret weapons research facility much like this one, OKB.
There's way too many corners to that man's face.
The Granin Design Bureau, and is using it to further his plans.
But that is not enough to satisfy him. Now he's plotting to seize the secret weapon I have been developing here and use it as leverage in his
Yes, a
bid
good
for
sleepy.
power.
Seriously, what is with that man's jaw? That's horrifying. Did they chisel it? Is it stone?
Says that they are going to make their move during the test.
Ah, the virtual test, right? For the virtual mission.
Oh, Gibbets, that means he's a 16-year-old boy. That's a high schooler.
Many men just to keep me inside.
Yeah, did you know that Solid Snake or Naked Snake here is actually only 12?
Captured me.
That's just a 12-year-old Japanese boy.
Killing me in the process, or so it would seem.
Leave a stretch.
Vulcan will come. I'm sure of it. You must get me out of here before then.
Leave it to me.
I'll get you out of here stealthy like a puma.
By the way, your Russian is superb. Where did you learn to speak it?
From my mentor.
Huh?
America's true
Huh?
country.
Huh?
Having second thoughts.
No. I have no love for this place. Let's go.
We were speaking English the entire time, right?
Major, this is Snake. Sokolov is safe with me. He's doing fine. No
We didn't speak Russian.
Good work, Snake. Now hurry up and get Sokolov to the recovery point.
We've been Russian the whole time?
Roger.
What about the sentries?
I had
What?
to kill them. There was no other way. But no one will know we were involved.
I see.
What about the boss?
We lost contact with the boss some time ago.
What happened?
It's probably just
It was Russian?
Just hurry and get
Do I understand
Sokolov out.
Russian? Are you sure? Was I not here? Where'd I go? No? I'm so confused. Apparently we all understand Russian now. What is he doing? I will chop you with my quick little hand movements. Power of... Knee. Kamehameha. Oh, thank you for the resub. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hooah! Yeah, look at my fingers. They will scare you. Oh, says the guy. No, because he's naked snake. Oh.
Freeze!
Happy birthday, Ashley! It's your birthday. Wait. Pause. What'd you say? It's my birthday. Can I share it? Of course you can. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ashley. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Happy birthday. Mwah. Thank you for coming by on your birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, God, don't worry. A puma can never be snuck up on. They'll never see me coming. Don't worry if I move very stealthy like a... No. I'm a snake. Puma. What is up? Oh. What are you? Got a little gun.
You're from the Ocelot unit of Spetsnaz.
Ocelot?
What's a crew soldier doing here?
Oh, you're a lizard too. The famous Ocelot lizard. Oh, he's pretty. I mean, I'm not attracted to him at all.
That's Major Ocelot to you. Don't you forget it.
Look at him posing. All right. Oh, his name's actually Josh Keaton.
Get out of here. And Ocelot never lets his prey escape.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Whoa. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Are you sure you're not a puma of some sort? Ocelot's just like a smaller puma, right? Oh. It's a very good shot for a tiny puma. Hey, keep one alive so we can ask them questions. Do you think that one's okay? Can we ask that one questions?
I can't say it feels good to kill a comrade, even if it is for the Gru.
Sokolov.
The Gru? Even the monk.
All right, so like, do we kiss now or so? I mean, fight? Yeah, do we fight now? That's what I'm expecting.
Name for the stretch.
Oh my god, there's more pumas! What are those kitty cats?
What is that stance?
That's my puma stance.
That gun. If you're not the boss,
It's just so corny. I love this. It's the best.
then die.
Oh god, it's puma gun. This is why you always trust a puma over an ocelot. Bigger gun.
Major! Leave it! Shoot the other one!
Ah.
It's like an action movie. It's so great. Like, it's not like all the freaking like super duper aggressive like Call of Duty games. Like, this feels like a crazy, insane. I don't know. I love it. It's so over the top.
Should have been a puma.
Oh, I'm sorry there was an ad. I didn't notice. I apologize.
Possible. You ejected the first bullet by hand, didn't you? I see what you were trying to do.
No.
Testing a technique you've only heard about in the middle of battle wasn't very smart. You were asking to have your gun jam on you. Besides, I don't think you're cut out for an automatic.
Wait, there's ads? Okay. Let me know when the ads are done. Chat, raise your hand if ads are still there. Oh, yeah. I try to keep the shortest ads.
In the first place, you tend to twist your elbow to absorb the recoil. That's more of a revolver technique.
Oh.
You filthy American dog!
I love his Russian accent.
But that was some fancy shooting. You're pretty good.
for a tiny puma.
Pretty good.
And I'm gonna give you a little kiss. I mean, I would never kiss a sleeping man. That's crazy. Look at my big old man titties. Oh, well, thank you so much for the redeem.
Major.
I kissed a man. I mean, I fought a guy.
You all right?
I've run into a few snags. These guys were after Sokolov too. Apparently, they were taking orders from a GRU colonel named Volk.
I already did the Adada.
GRU colonel?
Part of an internal Soviet power struggle, according to Sokolov. Something between the KGB and GRU. Between
Yes, the GRU. The monster in Zork.
Guided by the KGB and hunted by GRU? Snake, it sounds like this could be even hotter than Cuba.
I know, he was very sexy, Major. I mean, aggression.
Sokolov ran off by himself, but I'll catch up to him.
We're counting on you.
Sorry. Ooh, woo. All right, good thing all of these guys are just knocked out and not dead. That'd be awful. Can you imagine if somebody came by and blew them all up with a grenade? Who would do that? That's crazy. Just kidding. I'm not a monster. I'm a puma. And pumas don't have thumbs, so I can't really wield a grenade.
It's so much fun, okay? I understand the game, Grumps. I understand.
Oh, it's a secret hatch. Good thing my puma senses can get under here.
Bye, meow, kitty cat. We're gonna do this. We're gonna play cheesy, corny games that are great, like Metal Gear. I don't know if there's any game that compares to Metal Gear, though.
Oh god, the door is still locked. My number one enemy.
I guess we just... I don't know. What do we do now? Gene, look at the yellow.
I can't find the yellow.
Oh, Devil May Cry. Maybe.
No, Chet, there's a bear. It's my bear titties. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, I'm so hungry I could eat a hornet's nest.
I want some more.
No, you don't, Snake. What do you mean you want to eat? What? What? Why
Ah, delicious hornets. I want more. Oh. God, they're stinging the inside of my mouth.
Spetsnaz.
Yes.
Bees.
Has to offer. They're coming for me. I'm finished.
Calm down.
Don't worry, I never failed to make myself laugh either.
Oh, God. It's the hornets. They're going back for their comrades. It's a really big hornet. Oh, it's big. Long. Hard. Like some kind of puma. Behemoth? What is that? Like some large cat of some sort?
A nuclear-equipped tank capable of operating solo.
As long as it's not pilot.
You saw the long shaft in the ball. You saw the long shaft in the ball. It wasn't just me.
This is only the end of phase 1. It will be truly finished until we complete phase 2.
Yes. The virtual phase. Where we pilot it with pumas.
If it is completed and the Colonel gets his hands on it, it will mean the end of the Cold War.
The end of the Cold War.
That's great. No more wars. I'm so excited.
Fear will truly begin.
Oh.
World War.
Is that when the president becomes a puma?
To cooperate. I didn't want to die.
Oh. It's a virtual mission, though. You're fine. Die.
All right. We'll throw you off the cliff, it's fine. Once you die, you don't die in real life. You just wake up from the game. Be careful. This is not hardcore. Can you imagine? Oh god, die straight. Be careful. There might be pumas in the water. Oh god. What's in the briefcase? Pumas. Oh. Snake. Wait, it's me.
Boss?
Got it. Thank you. You made the bridge more stable. Those are stabilizing crates.
Good work, Jack.
What are you doing here?
My name's Puma. Snake. Snake Puma. Oh god! The Hornets are back! I knew I shouldn't have eaten them! Oh my god. She's a Hornet. She's a really big Hornet in disguise. I knew it! No woman can be this powerful. She has to be a Hornet.
Hornets?
I knew I shouldn't have eaten them earlier! But oh god! That's a really big Puma. Wait, are you the Bee Queen? Which one of you is a Hornet? Do you know what Metal Gear is? Do you know what Metal Gear is? You take a guy, and you, thank you for the headbats, you raise him on anime his entire life, right? But he loves action movies. This is America War action movie, the anime. That's what it is. This is, just think of it this way. It is Cold War military anime. Right? That's why it's so good. Oh yes, we'll consume hornets and I'll gain their powers. And then through the power of justice and loyalty. Good thing he made a bridge with his hornets. He used his hornet powers. That's a technique they teach in Tibet.
Let us fight together again.
I have waited long for this day.
Wow, he had a really snake-like voice, almost like a lizard.
Once more.
I bet they call him Lizard Man. Oh my god, he's a parrot. Hello?
Now that all 5 of us are
What the?
together,
Huh?
it's time we go to the depths of hell
What?
itself.
That's blood. Is this kind of thing normal?
Is he crying?
Oh, he's got a really, like, serpent-like appearance. I don't know what kind of cat he is. Come on. What are your top 10 anime betrayals? All of them. Anytime an anime ends too early. Oh my god, look!
Kuwabara, Kuwabara.
Ah, yes. A 12-year-old Japanese boy. Look at his chiseled jaw. I'm an elementary student.
Joyful scene.
Colonel Vogan.
Ah, what a joyful scene.
And to my unit.
Welcome to my unit. The Hornet unit.
I'm defecting to the Soviet Union.
I'm sorry, Snake, I've become a bee.
Recoilless nuclear warheads.
What? What?
These will make a fine gift for me.
This can't be happening.
This can't be happening.
You see his little
oh yeah. I have to shake my head. How do you know I'm saying no? I'm shaking my whole body. The no is so intense it makes me go
Another one of your disciples?
No, we'll finish this video, then I think we'll be good.
Are we taking him with us?
No, this one is still just a child. Too pure for us cobras.
Yeah, I'm only a 12-year-old boy. Cobra.
He's not yet found an emotion to
Hey, you're a hornet. An emotion.
What are you talking about?
Constipation. Sexy. Is sexy an emotion?
pull the trigger.
Horny. I'm the horny puma.
Thank you for the hydrate.
What kind of emotion do you carry in a battle? Horny. I go to battle horny. It's my emotion. It's how I win all my wars. Nobody wants to fight a man with an erection.
Sorry. Okay, I'll stop.
Oh, God! Ah! My puma wrist. Luckily, it's only a virtual injury.
Seen my face.
No, it's only a virtual face. It's not real.
We can't let him live.
Oh, good. It's only. We're gonna get a. It's an electrical injury. It's only virtual. It's fine. I'm ready. Shock me to back to awake.
We're finished.
Do you have those weird VR toggles?
He must die.
Wait.
Dino Jutsu.
I'll take care of him.
I'll cast bullets.
Sir, you forgot your gun.
Jack.
Damn it, every time. I knew I was forgetting something. Why don't bullets work on their own? They need to make like a device to activate them.
The gun, sir.
Oh, what? No, all right. God, that really hurt for a virtual injury.
She grabbed on Leon Kennedy. She grabbed onto his shirt, but he's not wearing one.
Oh God, my shirt! Ah, I was so hurt that you threw me by my shirt.
Hey, I did that like 5 times, and why didn't I survive? Do you know how many times I threw myself in the water and they're just like, you're dead?
Been rejected.
Not fair. She threw me by the chest hair. Are you in?
Done here.
Now, onto Sokolov's research facility.
No, my chest hair.
Shagohod is ours.
Now to get myself a gun.
Drift away. My place is with them now.
How does she have bangs and like her hair is the white? It's a mullet, and it's just so. Why are there so many mullets in this game? Chat, I'm gonna get a mullet. New haircut, Solid Snake. I'm getting a mullet. Can't stop me. It's gonna be a curly mullet.
The Hornets came back for revenge, Colonel.
Snake, Can you hear me?
Yeah. Just barely.
I have hornets in my ears.
Listen to me. You need emergency medical treatment. Can you move?
No. I'm actually dead right now. Don't worry, it's only virtual, though.
Wounds treated. Hang in there.
It's fine, they're virtual wounds.
All right, let's get you fixed up. Paramedic?
Okay, Snake. Just relax and it'll all be over before you know it.
Bang! What did you do? I thought you said put him out of his misery.
I've seen people in worse shape before. Think you can handle it?
And all of them died, so you know you might die too.
The boss. She's defected.
We'll talk about that later. First, we've got to get you patched up.
Okay, here we go.
I do have a mullet. Oh my god, I have a mullet. I have a mullet! What?
If you select start the treatment. Healing is divided into two types of treatment: medicine and surgical procedures. Your injury
How long?
fractured left elbow and rib bone, and lacerations on your upper arms, right elbow, and abdomen.
Good.
They need to be fixed using surgical treatment.
Sick.
Move the healing cursor with a movement stick to the affected part of your body, and press the enter button. Once you've selected the affected area, use the movement stick to select the medical item, and then
Hi,
press the enter
Pokey.
button.
Go get a shower for Pokey.
Items to help your recovery process.
I gotta move my stick, chat. I'm gonna. The healing stick. We're just gonna. Yeah, nursing students, take notes. Grab your healing stick, move it onto the place, enter. Okay? Take your healing stick and go over the wound and enter. Got it? Yes. I was. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. Can you say that again? What? No, I'm not ready for surgery. Oh God, no. All right. Luckily, it's only virtual. Gonna go into the cure section. All right. Got it. Understood. All right. Let's see. I need to cure my spine. Wound is still open. All right. It's bleeding. Not yet disinfected. Got it. So we're gonna disinfect. We're going to suture. We're going to septic. I'm gonna apply the bandage. All right, we did it. All right. Disinfected. Okay. Septic. Suture. Bandage. Okay, we're gonna try different orders. See what happens. Bandage. All right, now we're gonna disinfect. Yeah, amazing. Now we're gonna wipe out. Hey, wait. I'd like you all. So I'm gonna walk you through what I just did. I put a Band-Aid on it. Put a Band-Aid on the wound. I then disinfected the Band-Aid on top of it, the outer layer. Now I'm going to put a septic on it to try to stop the bleeding. And now that all of this is covered up, I'm going to use a suture. Disinfect. I'm pretty sure this... Oh, my father's calling. 1 second.
Good job, Snake.
We're coming to get you now. Just stay where you are. We'll drop a recovery balloon. Can you set it up?
Papa Gene says hi. Drown the wood in healing juice. Oh. Oh, sorry. Can I say that I'm having fun? I am indeed having fun. I'm legitimately having fun. I guess it's Papa Lucky or Lucky Papa or Lucky Dad. Granddad? 'Cause I'm father. Oh God, she's gonna use the Force. She's making me raise my hand! No! Sorry, okay. It's fine. Use the Schwartz. Bing, bing, bing. Anyways, we have gone an extra half an hour over. So, once this video's over, we'll call it and we'll raid somebody. Yep.
Ah. I see. He was calling my gun too small.
I may refund you on that one. I already do have somebody that I want to raid. How would you react if I made a whole song in 5 hours? A song being inspired by that romance self-love book? That'd be very incredible.
A great success. Thanks to the boss and her cobras, I have both Sokolov and the Shagohod.
Now you stink. You smell like hornets.
Sorry, he's in a... Why she's
What are we going to do with the girl?
Who is she?
Apparently she's Sokolov's woman.
Red and black, 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 red and black. I'm proud of you, Annie. Very well done. Oh.
She's a nice catch.
Yes.
Not so fast, my dear.
What is this? Some sort of puma?
A kiss of death.
Are you KGB?
We may be able to use her. She has spunk.
We'll refund you after the stream, M31.
Shall we take her back to the base?
Perhaps we should. We have no further use for
Oh, thank you,
Sokolov
Nakes. Thank you,
research
Nakes.
facility.
Appreciate it.
I think it's time I gave this marvelous new toy a try.
Colonel, even if they are our enemies, they're still our countrymen.
But it won't be me that pulled the trigger. It'll be our friend, the American defector.
You're going to nuke your fellow Russians?
Remember the Alamo.
What?
Colonel!
Oh, yeah, we're gonna nuke him real quick. Remember the Alamo. Yes, it's a recoilless nuke. Not the time!
Oh, well, thank you so much for the redeem.
Save? Yeah.
Don't worry. Pumas are, like cockroaches. We, always survive.
Anyways, it is time, lovelies. It is time we find somebody to raid. Oh.
Don't worry, it was only a virtual bomb.
And I think I know who I want to raid, and I need to see if they are available. Let's see. It's been a lot of fun. Y'all had fun today? I had fun. It was really goofy. I know not everybody liked it, but plenty of you did. It might have been a little bit too much for some people, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Let me do it. We're gonna see if the person I need to raid is on. They are. Yes.
You gotta think of
Shit, we'll be to raid into someone. He's going to be very nice, very cool. You might recognize him because I'm imitating the accent right now. I'm going to say hello to Croc. And we're going to say, we got to find his name. We're going to say, Croc for Mayor. I'm going to raid Croc. Give me a second. Yes. And the raid message is going to be this. It's going to be Croc for Mayor. And I'm going to do the emote here. Boop. Boop. There you go. Grab that raid message, hopefully, buddy. Go send you over to Croc. Y'all be kind, y'all be sweet, y'all be lovely, as amazing people as I know you are. And I had a lot of fun today. Thank y'all for hanging out and letting me be goofy, okay? Genuinely. It was a lot of fun. Sometimes I worry that those streams get too goofy and people aren't going to enjoy it, but, you know, a lot of you stuck around. And so I do truly appreciate it, lovelies. Mwah. 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 Bye for now.